Hello everyone. In this lesson, we will focus on proper coloring techniques. Or more specifically, what constitutes a proper coloring procedure. We'll use the coloring process of a sphere as our demonstration. Definitely, the first step is to create a new layer. Then, we'll draw a sphere and apply its local color. Let's start by painting a gray sphere. After adding the local color, the next obvious step is to add light and shadow relationship and tonal relationship. Since we are now adding the light and shadow relationship, we must avoid relying on time-saving and labor-saving tools like the gradient or paint bucket tools, as they are ineffective for achieving this nuanced modeling. Instead, we will use a brush tool. We select the soft edge brush here. This is because the surface transitions on a sphere are very gradual and natural, necessitating the use of a soft edge rather than a hard one. Similarly, ensure the transfer settings are enabled. Within the control panel, you must activate the pen pressure option. This ensures that our brush has pressure sensitivity. Actually painting a sphere is quite straightforward. Except the coloring technique. We started with a gray one because it can make the tonal relationships more intuitive. A common issue is that once color is introduced, tonal relationship can be lost, resulting in a flat, simple shape rather than a fully realized form. But that is certainly not the desired outcome for our sphere. As I mentioned, our goal is proper coloring. So, how do we turn to painting? We can assign it a color. Let's choose a more pleasant one. For example, orange. Now, our task is to create an orange sphere. As mentioned in step 1, we painted the local color. You can also rename the layer accordingly. So, what do we do in step 2? We proceed to paint the value, tonality. But it's crucial to follow the correct sequence. Let's establish a warm light source for our sphere. We can use a yellow light. However, using a yellow light introduces a common challenge. This often leads to a mistake many students make. When painting the value, someone will tend to scrub back and forth with the brush like this. This operation is definitely incorrect. Others are a bit more careful. They will do like this to strive to create a transition. But the product still looks unnatural. Why is that? The key issue lies in brush usage. During the initial color blocking phase, you must use a large brush. Avoid small brushes at this stage, as they prevent you from achieving soft, natural transitions. So when should you use a small brush? Only during the later stages, when you are refining details, you can use the small brush. So I will directly use a large brush here to apply the color. Gently build up the color with light and layered passes. The further back the area is, the lighter the strokes will be. Whereas in the foreground, I will deliberately apply heavier strokes. Why is that? Is it because we are dealing with light and shadow here? Then, how should we handle the shadows? Just now, we used this color. So we can slightly deepen it. Make it darker. Similarly, the higher the transition area goes, the lighter it becomes. The lower it goes, the heavier it gets. In this way, the basic light and shadow relationship emerges. And at this stage, we can begin enhancing its light and shadow effects. To enhance light and shadow, we start with the brighter areas. One thing to note is that some students tend to use pure white when painting highlights, which is incorrect. In our color work, black, gray, and white are not considered colors. This means that any area we want to render should carry a color property with a slightly whitish tint. Let's make the adjustment here instead, so that the transition appears more natural. For the shadow, the process is even simpler. We directly add reflected light. The higher the area, the smoother the transition becomes. The lower it goes, and the closer it is to the edges, the heavier the color gets. In this way, the full tonal range of the sphere emerges. Some students may feel that the reflected light appears too strong. In that case, you can lower its opacity and then gradually build up the effect. This approach will make the rendering look more natural. And this represents a more correct way of coloring. When applying color, there are a few key points to keep in mind. First of all, at the early stage of painting, do not use a brush that is too small. Instead, we must begin with a large brush and gradually move from large to smaller brushes as the work develops. Secondly, pay close attention to transitions while applying color. Only when the transitions are natural will the painting appear visually pleasing. This also connects back to the first point that the brush needs to be enlarged. Thirdly, when painting, be mindful of brushwork weight and rhythm. Some students cannot control the brush when they use it. Sometimes they press too hard with every stroke, while the other times their strokes are consistently too light. Both extremes result in unnatural transitions. If you attempt to correct this later by excessive smudging, the painting will only become messier and less appealing. This explains why some students' work tends to look dirtier and less refined as they continue. That is also the reason, because you have over-smudged it. Here, I will show you with two images. This is the finished work. And let's look at what steps make up the correct painting workflow. First of all, the number of layers must be sufficient. Because it is impossible to achieve a good coloring effect with only a few layers, that is absolutely not feasible. Painting is essentially a process of building up gradually, applying small amounts repeatedly in multiple layers. The first step is, of course, our sketch and inking. This part needs little explanation. As mentioned earlier, the inking can be done either with a brush or with the pen tool. Alright, next, after finishing the inking, pay attention. We can move on to creating the base color. What is the purpose of this step? Once the base color is in place, all the following layers can be clipped downward, aligned using the clipping mask function. Some of you may not know how to clip layers downward. Let's take this sphere as an example. I create a new layer, hold down the altitude key, and place the cursor between the two layers. The cursor will change from a pointing finger to a downward arrow. This means that whatever we paint will stay within the boundaries of the base layer. If we cancel the clipping, let me show you what happens. Once the arrow is removed, it will change into this. Then I paint freely and clip it downward again. It will only display the areas present on the layer below. Let's go back and review. First, we apply a base color like this. Next, we create a gradient for the background. Start with the background first. At this point, I need to remind you of a common mistake. Some students really like to color this way. They use a soft edge brush to apply color. The problem of soft edge brush is that the paint often bleeds beyond the intended boundary. That's why here we should switch to a hard edge brush for coloring. That's what some students typically do. Now I roughly pick a color for the background and fill it in the entire background. Then leave the area for the figure blank. How do we handle the blank areas? We create a new layer for the figure part and apply the skin tone there. At the hair area, we can leave it blank again, and then apply a hair color. Just like this, while coloring. Its edges will not be carefully controlled, so that the color will easily spill outside the intended area. Also, the brushwork is very careless. My description may not fully capture the issue. Then, when it comes to the antlers, a color is applied to them as well. What problem does this create? As you can see, there won't be any blank areas like this. Many students tend to color each part separately, which makes the overall image feel very segmented and disconnected. Here, I require everyone to start by applying an overall base color. First, cover the entire canvas with a background tone. It means that you need to fill the entire canvas first. Once it's fully covered, you can then add colors for each part: skin, dress, antlers, and hair, layering them on top. Next is the line art, which should be added first, while it's true that we color each part individually. Before applying these different colors, we should first lay down an overall base color. This makes the image appear more unified. Once the base color, our local color, is applied, what is the next step? Do you all remember? This is the skin. What is the next step? We need to establish the tonality, defining both the shadow and the light. This gives the change of light and shadow relationship. For the fire, we simply emphasize the shadow or the light, often using a soft-edged brush to create smooth transitions. Next, we work on the light and shadow. The skin's light and shadow start to emerge. For the light and shadow on the dress, sometimes when the shadows are painted, the illuminated areas naturally become visible. After the main light and shadow are established, the next step is to add reflected light. Only by enhancing these light and shadow variations does the painting become more vibrant and visually striking. Next, we add reflected light. I'll add her makeup first. The reflections on the dress represent ambient light. So we apply reflected light to all areas, corresponding to their respective light and shadow. Here, we also use a slightly gradient approach. Using a soft edge brush, we paint and add all the reflected light. At this point, the painting is essentially complete. It's actually very simple, consisting of just a few steps. First one, sketch. The second one is inking. The third one is applying an overall base color. After applying the overall base color, we can paint within its boundaries without exceeding the base. The fourth step is to add the local colors of each object. Once the local colors are applied, we move on to rendering the tonal relationship, that is, the light and shadow relationship. After establishing the relationship, we enhance the light and shadow and add reflected light. In fact, reflected light and general light and shadow can be handled together. Finally, we can introduce the texture rendering. As you can see, the painting method is relatively simple. That means it does not use any complex painting techniques. So how do we enhance the texture rendering in a painting? We can add a texture effect. The texture becomes apparent. So that's all for this piece. Let's look at a slightly more complex painting. First, I'll show you the overall effect. Compared to the previous one, this piece is a bit more challenging. So we'll examine it step by step. Step 1 is still to lay down a base color. As I've emphasized before, make sure there are no gaps. Every area must be covered with the base color. Do not paint directly on a white canvas. Always apply a base color first. Next, I'll show you the complete image. This is a complete image. Compared to the previous painting, this one appears more complex, because the brushwork is built up layer by layer. Similar to traditional painting techniques with pigments. Additionally, this piece incorporates a spatial perspective and a compositional structure, which makes it more intricate overall. However, the method is essentially the same, and the coloring steps are identical. First, we complete the line art. After applying the base color, when painting a scene like this, We usually work from the background forward rather than starting with the characters in the foreground. We always paint from the background forward. Therefore, we always begin with the background. For example, take the ground. First, we roughly lay down an overall color, covering the entire area. While applying this base color, we use a straightforward filling method, painting entirely with brush strokes. This establishes the base color. In this painting, it's very clear that only the character and the cat have lines. The rest of the scene has no lines. Consequently, painting in the unlined areas looks more free and spontaneous. However, in the lined areas, we can observe that the coloring is very precise. The colors never extend beyond the boundaries of the line art. After applying the overall local color, the next step is to work on finer details. While adding these details, we must always keep the light and shadow in mind. You can notice that the left side of the scene is slightly darker, while the center is brighter. The brighter areas indicate that the light is coming from the right side and casting shadows toward the left. As we continue detailing, we simultaneously apply light and shadow. In my process, I build the painting layer by layer, so it's essential to constantly remember how the light and shadow are rendered, and source of the light. Next, the character follows the same principle. The character also needs light and shadow. How do we apply it to the character? We add light and shadow to the hair, clothing, dress, and skin first, enhancing them slightly. Then we refine other details, such as the ground, grass, and trees. For the cat, the process is similar. Start with the local color. Give it an overall base color. Then distinguish the colors of each part. For example, what color is its body? And what color is the clothing? After that, we add light and shadow and fill in any missing details. This completes the painting. Because the two paintings use different techniques, the second one may appear more chaotic or less orderly compared to the first. However, the approach is the same. We all start by painting an overall base color. For instance, the sky is not left blank. After applying the base color, we paint the local color of each object. Once the local colors are in place, we add values, and after that, we enhance it with light and shadow effect. Once the light and shadow effect is applied, we can add reflected light, and even refine some details. Details can also be added at the very end. If the overall composition looks too empty, you can include text or add elements like floating leaves or petals. All of the above constitutes the complete and proper steps for painting workflow.